All right, Pete, to start, we're going to be talking about Aston Villa. Now, it looks like Moussa Diaby has been linked heavily with a Saudi Pro League move. Can you give an update on that for us, please? And sort of the implications that could have on the club?
Yeah, Al Ittihad from the Saudi Pro League are in talks with Moussa Diaby about a possible move away from Villa Park this summer. Obviously, he joined a year ago from Bayer Leverkusen. There was interest from the Saudi Pro League in the Frenchman then, but decided to snub those overtures and made the move to Villa Park. He had a good, decent debut season at Villa. I think he had 19 goal contributions, helping them to finish in the top four as well. But obviously, I think now that he's got this big offer that's come in from Saudi again, it's something that he is very much interested in taking up. And it does look like Diaby will probably be leaving Villa to make that move to the Saudi Pro League. Probably Villa are thinking, due to PSR and FFP, that it's a good deal for them. They obviously spent quite a decent fee on him when they did sign him from Leverkusen last summer. So I think it was around 30 odd million. So if they can get 45 plus for him, I think it's a good deal. They make a profit on him, and it will obviously help them due to the other incoming arrivals that are due to arrive at Villa Park in the near future, with Onana coming in from Everton for £50 million, Jadon Philogene making a return to Villa from Hull for around £30 million as well. So I think Philogene will go in and just fill that void that Diaby will leave when he does look likely to make that move to the Saudi Pro League. So yeah, it's a blow for Villa losing a player like him, because they haven't got a lot of attacking options in the team, but I just think the offer's too good to turn down from Villa and also from the player himself.
Pete, you mentioned it in there actually about Jadon Philogene coming in. Are we expecting them as well to bring in another big name, or does FFP PSR prevent that? What's that situation saying for them?
Yeah, again, obviously we know that Villa had to do a bit of dealing before that June 30th deadline to ensure that they were complying with PSR regulations. I think Unai Emery ideally would love the opportunity to bring in another attacking player, whether that's a wide forward or number 9 to play back up to Ollie Watkins. I think a lot will depend on what happens with John Duran. If he was to leave before the close of the transfer window, that might give Villa a bit more money to go out and make further signings. He's been linked with West Ham as well as Chelsea earlier in the window as well. There's been talk of Nico Williams as well, who was one of the standout players at the Euros. We know Villa have held a long-term interest in the Spain international, but I think that deal might just be out of Villa's reach. I don't think they could probably persuade him to make that move to Villa Park. There's some top clubs interested in him, Barcelona seemingly leading the way for him as well. But yeah, Unai Emery, he just wants to continue to build and make Villa stronger and stronger. And obviously it's going to be a tougher season for Villa next year, because they've got to contend with the rigours of playing in the Champions League as well, and that will put extra demands on the squad.
Picking up on that, Paul, how much do you value John Duran in this current market? And do you feel sorry for him? Does he need to look for proper game time given Ollie Watkins' current form?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it, to play a backup striker to somebody who's going to play every week if he's fit. And Duran he's played out, we've seen him play out wide on the left, seen him play out on the right-hand side. But it's a player that's difficult to replace in a similar way. I compare it to Tottenham. When you had Harry Kane and you look for number 9 now, Tottenham always looked for somebody to play when Kane wasn't fit, but could also play as an attacking wide player. And John Duran, he's unfortunately for him, he's fallen into that category at Villa. If he's obviously going to want to play regularly, but with Watkins playing as that 9, he's not going to get the opportunity, and he doesn't see himself as a wide player. So his valuation in this market, I mean, Villa are going to want a decent price for him because they're going to have to replace him. So it'd be an interesting one to keep an eye on as to what they get and if he does move on. But there's top clubs in the Premier League that are looking at him, so that other clubs do see him as that 9.
And sort of following on from that, Pete, we know obviously Ollie Watkins had an outstanding Euros for England when he featured. What's the current situation around his future and his valuation in today's market?
Yeah, again, some people were saying he's probably wasn't used enough during the Euros. He had that massive impact when he came off the bench against the Netherlands, scoring the winning goal. He had a great season for Villa last year. I think he's probably right up there as the best strikers in the Premier League. He can lead the line on his own, or he can play as a 2 as well. So he does give a lot of options to Villa and to any team that wants to strengthen their forward line this year. Ollie Watkins would definitely be on your list. Villa aren't even considering cashing in on Ollie Watkins. He's on a long-term contract. I wouldn't be surprised if there's new talks, maybe to give him a bumper new deal as well off the back of what's happened at the Euros, and just to sort of end any speculation that he could be on the move. But yeah, you're going to be looking probably 70, 80 million pounds plus for Ollie Watkins right now as well. And I don't see many teams in the Premier League being able to pay for that type of fee right now, especially with the concerns over FFP and PSR. So I think Villa are pretty content that Ollie Watkins isn't going anywhere anytime soon, and the player himself seems happy as well. And if Villa can offer Champions League football, there's no real need for Ollie Watkins to sort of set out demands to potentially leave as well. But yeah, he's a top player, and I'm sure he's on a list of a number of the top clubs as well. But I just think probably this summer his price tag will be too high for a lot of clubs.
And alongside Moussa Diaby, Pete, are there any other exits we're expecting from Villa Park this summer potentially?
Yeah, obviously Villa have had a busy summer of ins and outs, probably more ins so far, which is needed, as I said, when they got Champions League football to contend with this year. Douglas Luiz was a big blow, losing him, I think, as well. Again, that was more due to the PSR regulations that they needed to do that deal with Juventus before that deadline. There'll be other players that maybe could be in danger of losing their place. Luca Digne, I think, is another one that potentially could be on the move. Ian Matson's coming from Chelsea, and you would imagine he would be first choice left back at the club. Matty Cash, there's been talk that he could potentially be moved on as well, with the club potentially looking at new right backs as well. So there'll be two of the names I think that could be in danger of moving on from Villa. But as I said, I think the squad is quite thin. That's why they're busy trying to add to it rather than letting players leave right now.
That's one thing that he's going to look at is his fullbacks. I mean, the way that he plays, Unai Emery plays this high line, and he's got to have pace in the fullback areas. And I think that's one thing that he probably felt that he was short on last year with Luca Digne and Matty Cash. They're not the quickest fullbacks. Moreno was probably the first player that Unai Emery signed that he brought in. He's not going to leave. He's going to be part of his squad going forward. Matson coming in shows you that he's looking to strengthen in that area. And I think that's one area we might see developments in with Villa is the fullback areas, because they do lack the pace that he requires when he plays that high line.
You've just watched a segment from Football Insider's brand new podcast, The Inside Track, with me, Lewis Pearce, alongside the guests on the show. Thanks very much for tuning in. Please do give the video a like, comment your thoughts on the topic, and feel free to share on your social media pages. If you want to listen to the full podcast episode, click the link in the description below. Keep your eyes peeled for plenty more content and exclusives here on The Inside Track.